Namaskar. Welcome to SSRF webinar on dance today. We apologize, we had one webinar 1 hour ago already, but there were some technical difficulties, so we are repeating this webinar. So if you wish to watch this webinar, please go to this post and watch it here. As always, this will be an interactive session. You can share your comments or ask your questions in the chat, and we will be replying to them as we go along. If we don't reply to all, we will take them within 24 hours. My name is Dragana, and I'm a seeker of SSRF for the past 19 years. We actually chose this topic on dance because of some of your requests. We had a topic on music some weeks ago, and this is a follow-up to that because they are interrelated. So we wanted to share with you some of our spiritual research on dance and how it affects a person, the environment, and how it affects a spiritual journey of a seeker. And as you can understand that dance is with us from times immemorial, and everybody likes to dance, most people do, and there is various ways how we use dance for our self-expression or to enhance our creativity or to express it or to even do it as an exercise. I was doing all of the three and always loved to dance. You can share your relationship to dance in the comment section. And I wish to ask you if you ever wondered how dance impacts us. Have you ever wondered why we use different dance styles and how it also impacts the environment, how it impacts the person? And as you know, people have been using various dance styles throughout the centuries and throughout cultures all over the world. How does dance impact us? This actually depends on the way we use dance, in which way we do it, with which intention and with which music and so on, which we will be discussing more later on, because dance can either generate positive or negative vibrations. I can share you my experience. As I said, I love to dance all my life, and I started when I was 5 years old. I was practicing classical ballet and wanted to become a ballerina. That was my life dream, very strong. And what happened after some years of dancing, I was becoming a teenager, and I grew up 12 centimeters in 1 year. So my chances to become a ballerina became close to nil. And I was told that I should probably leave the dance school because I would just be too tall for this profession. It was a devastating impact on me. So I tried to continue dancing whichever way I could, and it was the era of disco music at that time, and I was a teenager, so I started going to discos to dance. And even at that time, I could perceive a difference, how I felt when I was doing classical ballet and how was I feeling when I was doing disco. I couldn't explain it to myself, but there was a difference. I felt better when I was doing classical ballet. And now when I started doing spiritual practice and came to SSRF, I actually, through this research, understood why I was feeling like that. In order to understand all this research, it is very important to understand that the entire universe is composed of three basic subtle components: sattva, raja, and tama. They are the fabric of all the creation, and they permeate through all living and non-living things, tangible and intangible things. And as you can see, sattva is purity and knowledge, it has divinity. Raja is action and passion, and tama is ignorance and inertia. We have done several experiments regarding dance. In some of our experiments, our seekers who are affected by negative energies would manifest when dancing to Western music, and that negative energy actually manifested in them. So that was puzzling to us, and we tried to understand why this was happening. They were also behaving commonly how we see in clubs or at parties. It was very similar. So we can see in our first video clip. We also observed that when the negative energy manifesting in the seeker would come out, they would let their hair loose, and that was also intriguing. So we videoed it, and we can show it to you here. This is in contrast to experiments done where a seeker would dance to devotional music, and it looked quite differently, as you can see. There are some key features, the difference between Tama predominant dance and Sattva predominant dance. Yeah? And this includes facial expressions, hand movements, foot movements, and we can see this here in the video.
Let us now compare prominent feature of the Tama predominant and Sattva predominant dance movements. The first feature is facial expressions. The dancer who has distress due to negative energies is totally engrossed in the music. Her facial expression depicts restlessness, which is Tama predominant. On the other hand, the liveliness seen on the face of the dancer who does not have distress by negative energies is Sattva predominant. It is due to her awakened spiritual emotion of surrender to God, as she is in communion with Him and is visualizing His form. That is why her facial expressions awaken spiritual emotion in the observer too. The second feature of comparison is the use of mudras. In the Tama predominant dance, the dancer's hand movements are haphazard. Such haphazard movements attract distressing energy to the dancer's hands, which is then absorbed in her body. In Sattva predominant dance, the dancer's movements consist of mudras that are specific hand movements. When we perform mudras while dancing, it becomes possible for the dancer to establish communion with deities. Each finger is associated with a particular absolute cosmic principle, the absolute earth, water, fire, air, and ether principle. Depending on which fingertips are combined to create the mudra, that particular cosmic principle is activated in the dancer. The third feature of comparison is foot movements. The haphazard foot movements of the dancer who has distress due to negative energies attract distressing energy. In contrast, the specific foot movements of the dancer who has spiritual emotion and has no distress by negative energies spread positive energy on the ground. Today, due to increased spiritual impurity in society, negative energies are able to easily take control of us by influencing various aspects of our life. Modern-day dance is just one such aspect that is devoid of any spiritual experiences, as we are not aware of the spiritual dimension. Nowadays, dance remains merely a form of entertainment or a means to satisfy one's ego. More and more dancers and artists use their art only for commercial gain. But dance is not merely a combination of various body movements. It is an art based on the science of spirituality that can be used as a medium to grow spiritually, experience bliss, and attain God realization.
Actually, we have a comment from Yelena in Europe. I felt like crying while watching the devotional dance. This is the whole point. When we have that spiritual emotion for God and when we dance for God, to please God or to imbibe positive energy, then we feel that emotion that is coming from the seeker because it emits positive vibrations and divinity around. You can also share if you have some experiences when you were watching this comparison video with dance that emits negative vibrations and the dance that emits positive vibrations. We will also take some other questions and comments. There is a comment from Petra Stich from Vienna, Austria. She said, Namaskar, I also realized differences in energy level and ego increasing the way I would dance, but could not understand it before starting spiritual practice. Same with me. Actually, the difference when I was doing classical ballet dancing and the disco dancing, mainly when I was doing classical ballet, I would focus on what the artist wanted to explain through dance, the perfection of my movements, the aesthetics, and like that. So the focus was not on myself so much. But when I did disco dancing, I was aware that others may be watching how am I dancing, I know how to dance, and these kind of things. So I felt that the ego was more when I was doing disco dancing. So very much agree with you. There is a comment from David Emerson from USA. I have never been good at dancing. I feel dancing is to show off or to be cool, and that takes us away from God. So whenever someone asks me to dance, I decline. Yes, this is a good understanding of it also. If the dance is done with that intention to be cool or to show off, then the ego will be present there, and automatically negative energy will be more. But if the intention is to think of God through dance and do all the positive mudras and all the positive movements, then there will be divinity in the dance, David. We have one more comment from Petra. She said I had one overwhelming spiritual experience when visiting first time a live concert of a classical orchestra, and when the musicians started to tune their instruments, I felt they all got one in the spirit of the music. Then I felt hugged with unconditional love. I was crying from spiritual emotion the whole concert and did not understand what was happening to me, but just enjoyed this beautiful feeling. Dear Petra, this is mainly due to your spiritual emotion for God inside, your seekership, and also some in the audience or in the rehearsal team, in the orchestra team may have had spiritual emotion as well. So then that unity through the subtle sound and the sound that we hear came about. And that's what you felt. I have had similar experiences. I used to sing in a classical music choir when I was a student, in my student days. And we used to sing some spiritual music sometimes, and sometimes some other musical pieces. And I would always feel a distinct difference. when there was spiritual music sung, I would get goosebumps and tears in the eyes, and I felt much closer to God at that time. So similar to your experience. It just proves that the science is the same. There is one question. Do evil spirits really exist? When we mention negative energy, Sonu is asking this. I think you can see by yourself what you feel. Definitely, there is duality of black and white in the whole of universe. There is day and night. There is duality everywhere. So there is positive and there is negative. Even on the level of physics, you have positive atom, protons and neutrons and electrons, and negative, right? So everything is like that. So there is also black energy and divine energy. Natalie from Europe is asking, my daughter is going to classical ballet school. Isn't that good for her? Sure. It is good for self-expression. It is good as exercise. It is good to develop many qualities and discipline. It is very good training for young girls. It builds the body well as well. It develops creativity in their mind, and they become very gracious. So sure, if your daughter also is thinking about God or is a believer, she can think about God when dancing, and she can see what she perceives, whether her dancing will be even more beautiful. You can see with her, Natalie. Lucy from USA is asking, how about waltz and tango? They are a common, they're in between the classical and disco, let's say. So there will be some Rajatama in them. It again depends why we do it. If we want to show off or we are competing, ego will be more in these dances. Or if we are doing tango for some sexual enhancement, then the Rajatama will increase as well. So it depends on many, many different things, which we will see in the later in one slide. Maria from Canada. I tried going to Latino dance training, but I felt uncomfortable with all the movements. Felt like everyone is looking at me only, and I also felt uncomfortable being very close, hugging and touching with my dancing partner, so I gave up. I thought it was just shy, but does this have spiritual reasons? It can be both, dear Maria. It can be that you actually perceived that this is maybe not so good for you spiritually speaking, especially if you have spiritual inclinations. And it can be some shyness as well involved. Please do keep sending your questions. We will try to take all of them as we go along. Now we can continue with some slides which we will explain what we did in relation to spiritual research. We carried dance experiments using an instrument called a UTI scanner. Yeah? It has the ability to measure the energy and the aura around any object, be it living or non-living. So you can see in the next slide, we have two individuals who are asked to dance for a period of 10 minutes to songs of their choice. And on one side you have a Western club style dancing, and on the other you have Kathak, Indian classical dance. So this Kathak type of classical Indian dance is danced to devotional music. And the experiment showed that after 10 minutes of dancing, the Western dance, the negative aura went from 0 to 1 meter, so it increased. The positive energy completely eroded. The overall aura reduced by 18%, which is from 1.5 meters to 1.2 meters. Then on the side of Kathak, Indian classical dance, negative aura completely minimized. Positive energy aura increased from 0 to 1 meter, exactly opposite to the Western style dancing. And overall aura increased by over 70% from 1 meter, 0.1 to 2 meters. So you can see in this experiment, it shows very clearly and scientifically that Indian classical dance, which is actually done to please God and to invite divine energy in oneself, is better, spiritually speaking and in general. We have also to show you some drawings of the saddle, how it looks in the saddle when one dances, and they are based on divine knowledge. So you can see in one slide, when a seeker is affected by distress due to negative energies and dances to similar music, there is the creation of a sheath of distressing energy around the body, and it affects the environment as well. In contrast to that, in the next slide, we have dancing of Bharatanatyam. It is also a type of Indian classical dance, and it it activates divine energy, divine principle, and divine consciousness into the environment, all the positive aspects. So that dance is more positive than the previous one. Now, music and dance are activities that have spiritual properties, and spiritual energy can be gained from these dances. And depending on the dance, it can be positive or negative. It can be more sattva or more rajatama, and such vibrations are emitted. Sound is also associated with absolute ether element or akash tattva. So the following are some key parameters that can affect and influence the vibrations emitted by the performance of the artist or the audience, and how it is affected by it. Yeah, you can see in this coming slide. So it depends on the type of music and dance, musical instruments used, the beat and the rhythm along, if there is some vocals, and their meaning, and the time of the day. In the next slide, you can see that it also depends on the manner of performance, type of movements, haphazard or smooth, sexual, etc. If the dancer is under the influence of any intoxicating substances, be it alcohol or drugs, unfortunately, it is quite common nowadays. If they are leaving their hair open, it increases negative vibrations. What hand gestures are used, or mudras. Then the type of clothing, what they wear during dancing, especially the intention, whether the intention is worldly or spiritual behind the performance. If there is some ego or pride of the artist about performing, it has very detrimental effects, and that is what Petra also noticed, and myself as well. And if the seeker or the dancer has some distress or no distress, the spiritual level of the artist, and the spiritual emotion, the love for God in the artist. So there are some spiritual implications as well. In this slide you can see that there are many different things involved when we listen to tamasic music or dance to it. It involves haphazard and sexual movements usually. The lighting is dim. There are erratic lighting effects. Usually people who do this kind of dance are of lower spiritual level. As we keep growing spiritually, we will naturally try to stay away from this, even up subconsciously. Thoughts are charged with desire. Lots of cigarettes, drugs, and alcohol is usually used, unfortunately. And the dress is provocative. It is done at night, and like that. So such findings have practical implications for society, and especially the younger generation, who is exposed to this type of culture of clubs and dancing at night, and usually very late at night. when one goes dancing to a club where there is Rajasic, Tamasic, or Tamasic, Rajasic music like techno or heavy metal, it does not affect us well, and not only us, but the whole environment. And I will tell you one situation that I had some years back in 1998. My daughter and me were living in Paris at that time, and one morning we woke up with a heavy headache, both of us, and we were hearing at the back that there is some very strong beat happening, and the vibrations in the environment changed and were quite unpleasant. So we got up wondering what is happening and realized that there was a techno parade in the city. And as they were coming closer to us, we felt worse and worse. So we had to do a lot of chanting and spiritual healing remedies to even go through that day. The effect of this techno parade on us was more than 24 hours, and we felt it actually up to 10 days. The atmosphere in Paris changed. So this is how negatively this kind of music and dancing can affect not only us, but the whole society. So this happens, how it happens, basically like attracts alike. This is the law of the universe. So if we have a sickness and there are germs, they will bring negative energy. Similarly, in dancing, if we emit negative vibrations, that will invite negative vibrations to us and the surroundings. So this is how it happens. From the standpoint of a spiritual seeker, it is very important to continually try to increase sattva component and decrease Rajatama component in us. Because if we do not pay attention to it, then negative energy will be more around us, and we will have to spend more of our spiritual practice to decrease the Rajatama in us. Just to see, there are some more questions maybe. There is a question from Mike. I like jumping at the concerts and clubs when I'm stressed, and it helps me. So how can I take this stress out if I stop going to concerts or clubs? This is a good question, Mike. Actually, very easily you can do this. If you do spiritual practice, and you can see on our site, on SSRF site, you can go to an article called Start Your Spiritual Journey. You can see what you can do. It will not only relieve stress in you, but you will start growing spiritually, which is the main aim of human life. Chanting helps to calm the mind, and stress reduces very much when chanting is done, and other forms of spiritual practice. So you will be maybe still dancing, but no need to jump and relieve stress in such a way in clubs and parties. You will be maybe dancing for exercise a little bit. You will change your dance style most probably naturally and subconsciously, because the more positive energy you imbibe in yourself, the more you will strive to do some positive dancing that emits positive vibrations. There is one more comment. Anna, it is common with my friends to go out on weekends and drink alcohol and dance, but I feel tired the next day. I think this comment applies to many young people around the world. And one of the problems is why people go to drink alcohol and dance. They are trying to reduce unhappiness in themselves. Many people are now unhappy. They don't know how to gain happiness, let alone how to gain bliss. Bliss can be obtained through spiritual practice. And bliss is of the highest level of happiness, and it is permanent. So the more we gain bliss, even if it is 1 second, 2 seconds, 2 minutes, the less we will need to go to such ways to give ourselves happiness. We just null the mind with alcohol. Nothing is gained. Actually, we only lose, both on physical level, on mental level, and on spiritual level. And we have one special video on how alcohol affects us. You can watch it on SSRF INC YouTube channel, and it will be quite clear to you. So there is no need to resort to such crutches You can instead try to generate happiness and bliss from yourself, from within. And then you will not have the need for that, for outside interference through tamasic ways, yeah? And the question is also, how can I fit in this society and still be spiritual? See, we will be able to grow spiritually if we do spiritual practice. Some of our friends will understand, some may not. With time, we may realize who are our true friends and maybe even change some of them. Or they will change by the nature of things. As we keep growing, we start inviting to us more positive people. So they will understand. And you will see, if some of your old friends are not objecting, you can try to also go out with them, but you don't need to drink. You can just be an observer without judgment towards them and see how you feel. So they may also see changes in you, and maybe they will ask you, how did you achieve to be happy without using of alcohol or having to resort to other means that are external in nature? So they will be able to perceive something in you. We affect our society. The more we change, the more the society can change. And if they cannot understand, we can see whether we still want to go out and fit in such an environment. Maybe we will be fitting in some other environment later on, which will be much better and more conducive for our spiritual growth and our life in total. Yes, please do send some more questions. We still have some more time. Dear seekers, if there are no more questions, we can tell you to please go to SSRF YouTube channel and you can watch 2 videos. We have the video on dance number 1, dance 1, and dance 2. Both of these videos explain in detail how dance is affecting our life and our spiritual journey. So you can get more information and you can read our website on these topics as well. There is on our website there is an article on sattvic living, on the living that will generate more spiritually pure vibrations in our entire life, from our premises where we live in, to what food we eat, to what music we listen to, what music we dance to. All that is explained on our site. So dear viewers, we are slowly coming to the end of this webinar session. We express gratitude to you for participating, for asking questions, for sharing your comments. If you like them, please like them and share. You can write to us with your questions in private messages as well. There is one more question. It says, how can I practice sattvic dance and thinking of God? Yes, see, the more we do spiritual practice, the more we will naturally think of God. So dancing in this style will actually be with that intention and that purpose. So it will naturally happen. The intention matters the most. So we will be dancing with that kind of feeling while thinking about God. And it will take some practice to get into that habit, to get into that atmosphere and that feeling from within. And you will start experiencing bliss from within, and naturally you will want more and more of it. So the dance can be an expression to generate bliss actually in ourselves. Dear seekers, to remind you also that you can attend our spiritual meets or satsangs. They are free online, where we speak about spiritual practice, about personality defect removal, and many other topics. You can meet like-minded people there. And we have also 5-day spiritual workshops in USA and in Goa, India, where we have our spiritual research center and ashram. If you like, you can try to subscribe to our Facebook and choose, which you can see on this slide here, and like and share this video with the friends and family if you wish, because they may also benefit from them. There is one more comment from Petra Stich. Before starting chanting, I would not live any day without hearing music or listening to music, as I felt I cannot live without music. Since chanting, I feel the opposite. I cannot live without chanting anymore. This is a very nice transition. And the more we feel like that, the more we will also be listening to some devotional music, because that will also enhance our spiritual emotion towards God. Dear seekers, we will be concluding this webinar. Much gratitude for coming and viewing us and sharing your energy and thoughts with us. We welcome you to our future webinars as well, which will happen every 2 weeks. And we express gratitude and namaskar to you. Have a blissful day and have blissful dancing. Namaskar.